So what about stress? In my business, I'm going to be all ears because in mortgage finance, the stress that I suffer is or have to deal with is pretty high.
Well, and we're living in Silicon Valley, which is fast-paced and high-stressed, and stress is another one of those problems that we don't even realize that we're so used to living with this stress. It was great 50,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, where we were in the cave and the bear came at us and we had a stress response, a flight or fight response. 1,400 biochemicals are released, a flooding of chemicals, including cortisol, and that's great.
All based on our survival instinct.
It's a survival mechanism. But now our bodies and our brains don't discriminate between the bear coming at us and the car that cut us off in traffic. And so what's happening is all these stresses, we're reacting, our brains are reacting in the same way, and we're developing this increase in cortisol, increase in other stress hormones, and an absence of some of the offsetting hormones, or a lowering of the balance of cortisol and DHEA. And I think the next slide talks about what we can do, which is to transform that stress. One of the key ways is really how we think and how we respond to that stress. It isn't so much that we all have stress, it's how we respond. And responding in a negative fashion, which is really a survival mechanism to be wary, we're sort of primed for the negative. All those negative emotions and feelings of frustration, anger, anxiety, overwhelm, which is stress, all those things actually can show in our bodies. This is a rhythm strip on the right, 2 rhythm strips of emotions and the heart. And this is the same individual who on the top rhythm strip was asked to think of all the frustrations and negative things in his life. And lo and behold, this is the heart rhythm he has. And it's very chaotic. And it doesn't look healthy, and it's not healthy. And it also affects the brain and the ability to think clearly. It inhibits what we call the cortex, or the front part of the brain, and it leads to also chaotic thinking. Whereas at the bottom graph, that same individual was prompted to think about all the things he was grateful for, his relationships, even a pet, a vacation. Those heart rhythms smoothed out, he became resilient to those, whatever else was going on in his life. That's how powerful reducing stress can be.
You know, it's interesting, when we talked about, in those 7 steps, we talked about environment, love, and some of these things,
yes.
embracing those things.
Yes.
And, you know, it might be when someone cuts you off, maybe just forgive them, let them go. They
Right.
may be in a
Right.
hurry for whatever their purpose
Right.
is.
A lot of it's
Turn
about
on some relaxing music. When you go home, give your spouse a hug, or your
right.
your dog, or whatever you
Right.
have.
A lot of it is not holding on to those things, but letting go, having a lighter approach to life and to living.